Hello beautiful beings! Welcome back to Mindfulness and Yoga with Amanda. Did you know that in ancient times, yoga originated as only seated poses and mostly focused on meditation? The asana portion of yoga, or the postures, were only really introduced to help us connect with our bodies, connect with our breath, but ultimately to help us stretch out all those stiff joints and aches and pains that we have in the body so that we can have a more comfortable meditation experience. I know that whenever I sit in easy seated position or Sukhasana, I start to get really stiff and achy after a few minutes, especially right when I wake up. So I thought it would be a fun exercise for us to sit in Sukhasana, practice some self-awareness, and just do a quick body scan. We can just notice any areas of our body that are feeling stiff, achy, and then we'll do a yoga flow. We'll practice some different stretches to try and help those areas of our body. Then we'll sit back in Sukhasana, do another body scan, and see if we notice any differences. So this will give you a really unique, intuitive yoga practice that will probably be a little bit different every time because you're not focused on memorizing certain poses or memorizing sun salutations. We're simply tuning into our body in the present moment and giving it what it needs. So let's meet in Sukhasana and see how our bodies are feeling. So you can sit on a stack of blankets or a meditation pillow, but I find it really helpful to just be sitting on the floor when I'm first trying to tune into my body to see where it really needs some love or some stretching. So go ahead and find yourself in easy seated position. You can root your tailbones into the earth, elongate the spine, stack the shoulders over the hips. You can bring your palms to your knees, either face up or face down. And then gently close the eyes. We're just going to take a few moments here, inhaling and exhaling, just tuning into the present moment. Go ahead and just become more aware and take notice of your body and your breath. Inhaling, exhaling. Do our breaths seem really deep or do they feel shallow? We can start a body scan at the top of the head and then slowly make our way down, noticing our face muscles, if our face muscles are really tight or if they feel relaxed. Bringing the awareness to our neck. Does our neck feel tight? Any stiffness? You can move it side to side and see if you feel any kinks that need worked out. Bringing the awareness to our shoulders and our arms. Do we feel sore? Do we feel relaxed there? Just with each inhale and exhale, we're noticing our bodies. Noticing our heart space. Does it feel open or closed off? Thinking about our rib cage and our torso and our mid-back. Does it feel like there's any tension there, any stiffness? When we inhale, do we feel our rib cage expand? When we exhale, do we feel our tailbone rooting into the earth? Bringing awareness to our hips and our pelvis. Do the hips feel strong and stable, or do they feel weak today? And then following that awareness down to our quads, our thighs, our knees. Does it feel like our thighs and our quads need some stretching? Does it feel like our knees are sore at all? And then finally, bring the awareness to the shins and to the ankles, the feet and the toes. Are they feeling achy at all? And then just a few more moments here, taking some deep breaths, noticing any other areas which may need stretching, We're gonna need some work today. Okay, so now you can gently open your eyes. Now that we've tuned into our bodies, we can just do the same thing we did before, starting from head to toe, but now stretching and working those muscles that we felt the tension in. So starting from the top of the head, we scan down. If the neck was feeling any tension, a good stretch is to gently do a hand-assisted head tilt to one side, coming back to center, doing the other side, and then even doing some neck rolls. Nice and slow here. In one direction, and neck rolls in the other direction. Since we're already in easy seated pose, it's nice to kind of start out your stretches staying seated. So going down from the neck to the shoulders, we can do some nice shoulder rolls. It's all intuitive here. That way we don't have to worry about memorizing some sort of sequence. We just kind of go from head to toe and see what feels good. So rolling in both directions, maybe doing some elbow rolls. And we can think about as we move the shoulders and we circle the arms, it really opens up the chest too, how all this sort of midsection is connected. So you're kind of hitting two birds with one stone when you really open up and expand the arms. You're opening the heart. You can think about the heart chakra, getting some nice expansion and contraction. So moving right along down to the spine. Maybe your back was feeling sort of stiff when we did our body scan, so a good one when you're seated is just to inhale and expand the chest like we were just doing, and now exhale, round the back. So that'll get some nice fluctuations going for expansion and contraction for the spine. Yeah, really nice gentle movements here to start out. Inhale, expand. Exhale, contract. And maybe it'll feel good, instead of just going forward and back, to go side to side. That'll give you a nice lateral body stretch. And if you're feeling really fancy, you can make a box with the rib cage. So starting at the front, you inhale, bring the rib cage to the side. Exhale, contract, bring it to the other side. So you can do a couple of those. And then of course switching directions and staying with the breath. Alright, so we had our neck, shoulders, our back, and our chest. We can reach the arms over to really get another nice side body stretch there. Reaching the other arm over. Then we can do some gentle twisting. You know, whenever we're doing this intuitively, we're just trying to think about, you know, every degree and every range of motion that we can really do here. So from here, I'd usually probably come up onto my hands and knees and do some cat-cow. That way we can, you know, kind of further develop that spinal movement and get something a little bit deeper. So when we're seated, we can only really move so far. But if we come into all fours here, we inhale, we expand our rib cage and look forward, arching the back. Exhale, push the floor away, round the back, tuck the tailbone. And we can feel a much deeper stretch with our expansion and contraction here to really loosen up the spine. And a good one here is to take this cat-cow kind of side to side as well. So instead of just going up and down, we can start to move left to right, maybe swaying the hips. And you can even do a circular motion here, where you come forward, and then on the exhale you round and circle back. And this will stretch just about every muscle in your back, around your spine. And again, to do it in both directions, really nice and slow, just feeling all those tendons and joints loosening up. Good, and coming back to center. So from here, maybe you noticed if we get down after the spine to the hips, that your hips were feeling achy, like they needed a stretch, you just didn't know which way to kind of stretch them. A really cool one that I learned is to overlap the legs. And this might feel kind of weird at first, so just listen to your body and take it at your own pace, but go ahead and bring your left leg over top of your right, and you want your feet to be nice and active here so that they're kind of giving you a little bit more support. And already here, I feel a nice stretch in the hips. So just overlapping one knee on top of the other. You can have the feet pointed or flexed, whichever one feels more stable. You don't want to twist too much, and you don't want to have it be a passive stretch. You want to feel nice muscular energy. So feeling that hip stretch, maybe you come forward a little bit, and you can use your hands as support to kind of lean forward, or maybe you get just enough stretch sitting upright. Beautiful. Okay, go ahead and undo that leg, and then since we did one side, we want to do the other. So go ahead and stack the right leg over the left. Just kind of wiggling into it, wherever it feels good for you. Noticing any differences on this side compared to the other side. Got nice active feet, straight spine. You can try and lean forward a little, see if that feels good. You can sit upright. And just staying with our breath. Beautiful. Okay, go ahead and come out of that, and you can just shake the legs out a little bit, because that one's a little bit intense even for me. So shake out the hips, shake out the thighs. Okay, so another hip stretch that I really like is sort of coming into a lunge position. So you can be on your knees. Go ahead and bring your left foot forward and your right foot back. And this will feel really nice on the back right hip. You can stay up on the ball of your foot, or you can drop the knee. The fundamental alignments here in this one is we want to make sure that our knee is just in line with our ankle. You never want the knee to be going past the ankle, because that increases risk for injury. So keeping the knee in line with the ankle, keeping a nice straight spine. And for me, it feels really good to kind of drop that knee. You can even take your right arm and bring it down, kind of almost come into a twist, and then you can deepen the stretch just a bit further by kind of like going down onto that arm and bending it. And if you want to take it one step further, you feel nice and comfortable in this position, you can inhale, lift this left arm up, bend the right leg back, and reach for the leg with the arm. And that should really give you a nice quad and hip stretch. It's okay if this front foot turns out to the side. That's natural in this position, so just inhaling, exhaling, allowing the breath to kind of fill up those spaces that are being stretched. Good. Okay, slowly release the leg. You can come back up into that lunge. Step back, and now we can do the other leg. So bringing that right leg forward. And again, just feeling what feels better for you. Maybe you like to just stay up on the ball of the foot. Maybe you drop the knee. Taking nice deep breaths, feeling that beautiful stretch in the back left hip. And then you can untuck the toe. Inhale the arm up and reach back for that bent leg. And then noticing any differences you feel on both sides. Is this side a little bit more stiff? Is this side looser? Then slowly release. Coming back up onto the hands and stepping back to a plank position. Okay, so one final hip stretch that I love is upward facing dog. So you can come onto your hands and knees, you can drop the pelvis to the mat, and then staying up on the balls of the toes, we can lift the knees up, taking the gaze forward. So now our hips and our knees are off the floor. And we're just really feeling our midsection and our pelvis get a nice stretch here. Maybe feel a little bit of tension in your back. So if you focus a little bit more on pressing the floor away, that'll take the tension out of your back. You can move the head from side to side here. Good. Go ahead and drop the knees. And then come back to a table and just sit wherever's comfy. And after all that stretching and arching in the back, my spine is telling me it wants to be stretched the other way. So a good thing for that is to take a child's pose. You can bring the knees about hip width apart, maybe a little bit wider. You can bring the toes together behind you. And then place the hands on the mat, stretching them out in front. You can sit the hips back and slowly lower into a child's pose. Just breathing here. This nice restorative back stretching pose. Really pressing the hands and the finger pads into your mat. And you can rest the forehead on the mat, or you can just let it hang between the arms. Beautiful. Another variation of child's pose is to keep the knees together, and then you can bring your hands behind you so that your palms are facing the sky, the backs of your hands are on the mat. And then go ahead and just lean forward. You can tilt the head to one side, and this will give you a nice shoulder and upper arm stretch. And then you can really feel that rounding of the back and the tailbone tucking towards the earth. Just a different variation. You can turn the head to the other side. Seeing if our bodies like this pose. Okay, we come out of that. So we stretched our hips forward, so now it feels like the backs of my legs are wanting to stretch. So if we come up onto our knees, we can bring one leg forward, almost like a kneeling split. You can keep this foot flexed, or you can try and point the toe. And then go ahead and just lean forward here. We want to make sure that we have a nice lumbar curve in the spine, so we're not really, hunching the back over. We're keeping a nice straight spine here. Maybe you reach for the toes if that feels good. This should give you a nice back of the thigh and calf stretch. And if this doesn't feel comfortable on the knee that's standing, you can put a couple blankets under there for extra support. Just taking a couple deep breaths, breathing into the areas that feels like they needed stretching. Good. Okay, you can come out of that leg, coming back onto the knees, and bring the right leg forward, or whichever leg you didn't do. Then go ahead and figure out if it feels better to have your foot flexed or pointed. Again, we want to make sure that we have a nice straight spine here, so we can even inhale the arm up and practice keeping your arm in line with your back, and that will help you keep a nice straight back. You can reach for the ground here. If the ground feels like it's too far away, you can use a block or a cushion. And reaching for those toes. Just feeling a nice thigh and calf stretch. Even a little bit of an ankle and toe stretch here as well. Beautiful. I love that one. So I think we've done just about everything we can on our hands and knees. So from here, I'd probably come up into a downward facing dog. So go ahead and plant the hands, pressing all 10 finger pads into the mat. We're on an angle that's slightly turned out a little bit. We want to really focus on making sure that the knuckle below our index finger is rooting into the earth, because a lot of people will tend to have a gap there and that could put more strain on your wrist. So really pressing all the knuckles, finger pads into the earth. You can tuck the toes behind you and lift the hips towards the sky. So this is our first downward dog, so go ahead and just pedal out the feet here nice and slowly. You can roll the ankles around if that feels good. Turning the head from side to side. Maybe you sway the hips back and forth. Remember, this is an intuitive practice to get in tune with your body, so just becoming aware and seeing whatever feels good here. Something I really like to do is to just walk one of my feet up a little bit closer to my hands and practice slowly stretching that leg, bending and stretching. That'll give you a nice stretch on the calf. Because my calves and my hamstrings are always really tight. Then you can switch the legs, so scooching that right foot up a little bit closer, and then slowly straighten and bend it. Okay, so now that you've done all those little movements that feel good here, you can just come into a standstill down dog. And just noticing here, do we feel a little bit more stretched out now? Tuning into the spine and the hips. So from down dog, we can inhale our right leg up and back behind us. We can exhale, bend the knee, and stack the hips. And this should give you a nice right side of the body stretch. You can even circle that ankle up there. This one will feel really nice to really open up the rib cage. Good, you can unstack the hips, bring the foot back down. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So inhale that left leg up. Exhale, bend the knee, stack the hips. You can roll the ankle. And just breathe in here, breathing air into the places that you're stretching. Unstack the hips and step back to down dog. So a fun little flow that I like to do in down dog to get my spine nice and stretched out is to do some spine rolls. So we can inhale, come onto the balls of the feet, roll the spine forward, shifting the weight to the front of the mat. And when you get into almost like a high plank position, go ahead and bend the knees, arch the back, and then press back almost into like a coiled up squat position, like you're ready to like jump off the ground. But you can just do the same thing you did coming back into that down dog. So inhale, down dog, roll onto the balls of the feet, shift the weight forward, exhale, bend the knees, arch the back, look forward, and press back into that coiled up position. So go ahead and do a couple of those at your own pace. Inhale, rolling through the spine. Exhale, bending the knees. Just seeing how this feels for you. Does it feel stiff or does it feel fluid? Just kind of tapping into what it feels like to roll our spine. You can come back the other way. Nice and slow and controlled. Okay, so let's do that one more time. Inhale, roll into the balls of the feet, shift the weight forward. This time we're actually going to come into a plank. We're going to exhale, lower to the earth. You can untuck the toes. And then stretch those legs out nice and long behind you. We're going to inhale, press up to an upward facing dog. And then exhale, tuck the toes back to a down dog. And again, once more, inhale, roll onto the balls of the feet, shift the weight to the front of the mat. This time we're going to take some baby steps towards our hands. When you can't go any farther, go ahead and bend the knees. We're going to come into a forward fold. This should feel really nice after we did that hamstring and calf stretches earlier. We're going to inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And then go ahead and inhale, reach the arms up, looking up, hands to touch. Then exhale, hands to heart center, and Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay, so that was a nice little flow and some fundamental movements and stretches that you can incorporate into your yoga practice, or just do them before you're about to start your day, or if you ever want to meditate and you want to feel nice and loosened up. Those are some good ones. I thought I'd show a couple standing poses that could also help you tune into your body, and then we'll meet back in Sukhasana and see if we notice any difference. So the first standing pose I like to do, especially like before I go for a run or something, is to do a nice quad stretch. So it's a little bit of a balancing pose. You come onto one leg, grab the other one behind you. You can even grab with both hands if you want to get a nice chest opener at the same time. You can keep a micro bend in the standing leg so you're not hyperextending behind the knee. And then you also want to make sure that both of your knees are pretty close together. You don't want this leg out to the side. Nice and hugged in towards the midline. Just inhaling, exhaling, getting a nice stretch. Go ahead and release the leg slowly. Now we'll do the other foot. So standing on our right leg, grab the left foot behind you. This one's always a little bit harder for me to grab behind. Keeping that micro bend, expanding our hearts forward. Inhale, exhale. Beautiful. Okay, release. So the next stage of that pose, or like a little bit of a deeper variation, would be dancer's pose. So what you want to do is come to the center of your mat, or if you find that it's a little bit hard to balance, go to a hardwood floor or your kitchen floor, because sometimes when we're trying to balance on one foot, our mat can be a little bit squishy. So I'll come off my mat to get a little bit better balance here. You're going to root all four corners of your foot into the earth, and you really want to focus on this line of energy that's coming from your hip to your knee to your ankle. You can feel the earth's energy pooling up, giving you a nice stacked support system. And then following that same line of energy, you're going to engage your core, lift up on through the spine, and then reach this other leg behind you. So almost like we were in the quad stretch before, keeping that micro bend in the standing leg. Go ahead and pull this leg behind you. Reach the other arm forward. Just as far as your body wants to go today. And then release. So that'll really open up the side body, the chest, get a nice hip, thigh, quad stretch, a little balancing action in there, get a little bit fired up. I love dancer's pose, especially before you go for a run. It'll really help you out. Okay, now you can switch sides. So I'll turn and face this way. So we're standing on the left leg, root all four corners into the earth. Feel that line of energy, the earth's energy supporting you. Engage the core, nice tall spine. And then go ahead and reach for that back foot. And finding your stability here before you pull up into it. So the trick here is to kick the foot back and pull the arm up so that it's kind of like a resistive equal and opposite force. Alrighty, so those are my standing poses. To top it all off, we will end with a cow face stretch. So you might need a yoga strap for this one if you have tight shoulders like me. I just have this bandana here. You could use a scarf, you could use a belt, some piece of fabric that will give you about shoulder width apart length. So you're going to take your strap, place it over the shoulder. could start with your right shoulder. We're going to inhale the right arm up, and then we're going to take our left arm with our back of our hand facing forward, palm facing back. You're just going to bend the elbow behind you so that your fingertips are reaching towards your right shoulder blade. And then you can, so we have this arm up, go ahead and bend it. And we're trying to reach for your left hand's fingertips. If you can't reach, that's okay. That's why you have this strap here. You can just hold on to it with both hands and reach the hands towards each other. So, the do's and don'ts of cow face. You don't want to be, real arched like this, and you don't want to be hunched over. You want to have like a pretty straight spine. You don't want your head hanging any one direction. You want it nice and aligned with your body. Something that really helps me is you can even engage the core a little bit so that you're not like flaring out. You can have feet shoulder width apart, micro bend in the knees. Just waiting for some motorcyclists to go by. Yes, so you can even do this one sitting on your knees, but since we're already standing, and then go ahead and take those nice big deep breaths. That's the key with these stretches, is to inhale into any areas that you feel need more stretching. Then exhale, you're releasing all the tension. You feel it in the shoulders, in the chest, in the rib cage. Good. Okay, go ahead and release. Shake out the arms. And I'll do the other side. So, and lay your strap over your shoulder. Inhale the left arm up. This right hand is gonna reach back to the left shoulder blade. And I'm definitely not close to reaching my hands, so I'm gonna grab my strap and then slowly walk the hands towards each other. Once you feel like you're at a good point, make sure your alignment is right. You want the spine nice and straight. Micro bend in the knees. And then deep breaths. Just feeling us open up our hearts and expanding our rib cage. Just filling the whole body with air. Being mindful, we're preparing for meditation, so kind of unwinding and getting excited to just sit in Sukhasana for a few moments and notice any differences in the body. Beautiful. Go ahead and release. You can throw your strap off to the side. Shake out the arms. Alrighty. So we're at the end of our practice. Now, since we're going to be sitting here for about 5 minutes, you can grab your pillow or your stack of blankets, or if you prefer to sit on the flat ground, it's totally cool. Go ahead and take a seat. And now, we can try and build our optimal Sukhasana position so that we don't induce any aches and pains onto us that aren't necessary. So, the key tips in Sukhasana, you want the knees to be just in line with the hips, or even a little bit lower. And if you're sitting on a prop, a good way to do that is to come on the very edge of it on the front. So I'm almost like leaning off of my sitting pillow, and that's going to draw the momentum and the weight of my body forward. Now from here, my feet are kind of taking a lot of the tension. So if you want, you can lift one foot, place it onto the other foot. And now, my feet are nice and folded and connecting to the earth much more naturally. I have like this really nice straight line on the bottom leg, and you might think, well, now this leg is up a little bit higher, and that's okay. As long as both knees are lower than the hips, it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. One can be a tad bit higher because, yeah, no one's shaped like a perfect square. So. So this foot's on top now, and this just feels so much more comfortable. I feel like really rooted into the earth. And so the first thing you want to think about once you've gotten into this type of position, and maybe you keep the legs, how you normally fold them. It's whatever feels good for you. But I do recommend trying this because it just feels totally different than the other way I was just sitting. So we're gonna bring our sitting bones back and apart. So you really feel that tailbone rooting into the earth. We're gonna inhale our side body long. So go ahead and lift up on the armpits, and you'll feel our lateral muscles and our rib cage expand. You can exhale, release. We're gonna inhale, elongate our spine. Think about the crown of your head reaching towards the sky. You can exhale, release. And now we can inhale, expand our hearts, opening up the chest. Exhale, go ahead and relax the shoulder blades onto the back plane. So now we should feel a nice active line of energy coming from the crown of our head, down the spine, rooting into the earth, where the crown is reaching up, our tailbone is rooting in, and it's this nice equal and opposite energy force that we can kind of focus on when we think about how our body is sitting here. So go ahead and close your eyes. You can bring your palms to your knees. You can bring them to Gyan Mudra, which is index finger to thumb. And then go ahead and just tune into the body. Focus on the breath. And we're just noticing, how do we feel? Do we feel loose and relaxed? Do we feel better than before we did all of the stretching? Do you feel like you could stay in this pose a bit longer now that we've gotten all those kinks out? Just taking some nice deep breaths. Inhaling, exhaling. Just emanating in some gratitude that you gave your body self-love today. You can notice how the breath will flow more easily into all parts of the body now that we focus on inhaling and breathing into those areas that needed stretching when we did our warm-ups. You can feel the skin and the muscles hang heavy towards the earth. We also feel the earth supporting us with equal and opposite energy, so we don't feel like we're too heavy or we're having a hard time holding ourselves up or that our joints are weak and achy. We feel more balanced, more in equilibrium with the earth. Maybe you notice any tingling or fuzzy feelings in your belly or in your muscles. Maybe you feel nice and warm now. Becoming aware of the circulation in the body. We probably brought more oxygen to our blood cells and to our brain. And just a few more deep breaths here. Okay, you can gently open the eyes. Bring your hands to your heart. We're going to take 3 deep breaths here and end with the sound of Om. So inhale, exhale, inhale deeply, exhale fully, inhale preparing for Om. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you were able to gain some knowledge and tools that you can use on your own time. I never want people to feel like they need to memorize certain structures and procedures when it comes to yoga. It's all about tuning into your body, doing what feels good, and just giving yourself all the love you can. Hope to see you next week. Thanks again.